How's Candidate D's nuts going?
I don't know, but I think Vermin Supreme is doing better. It's still the 21st of February, 2016. And this is the Radical Agnostic Part 2, Episode 51. We're back, better than ever, liquored up, and ready to roll. We got some more interesting topics. Let's hit it. Let's get Mark screaming right away.
That's just you guys. Don't put that on me and Beef. That's just you guys.
That's true. You guys are straight shooters.
Yeah, that's what we are.
Headshots.
Headshots, yeah. John Wick and John Wick 2. That's us.
So we have a continuing segment because, of course, I'm a professional academic paper writer. I write papers for master's, PhD, and undergrad students 5 days a week, if not more. And so paper of the week. The political and philosophical argument about parents who refuse medical treatment for their children because of religious beliefs. And, there's been several cases where the disease was fatal and the child died. One couple, they got probation because their kid died because they had bacterial infection of some kind. They wouldn't treat them. And so they got probation. And then 2 years later, they were back in court. Another dead kid. Same thing, bacterial infection. So they went to prison, and the rest of their 50 children were taken by the state. But so this topic inspires a lot of emotion because on the one hand, you've got a parent's right to raise their child as they see fit, and and within not be interfered with. System. Yeah, within any belief system, and not be interfered with your family by the government. I mean, come on, that's kind of a nightmare. Government coming into your house and tearing your family apart, or forcing this or that, or teaching your kids something you don't believe in. There's definitely a 1984 creepy quality to that idea. But on the other hand, there's parents out there who are crazy. There's parents who are not crazy, but extremely fundamentalist, where maybe the line there is blurry. And then there's others that are just angry or whatever they are, or they really believe in some stuff that isn't true. They think it'll work. Pray the sickness away.
Now, before you get to finish your question, and I don't mean to interrupt your summation because I really like it. And it's much better balanced than mine would be, because I'd either be throwing up in my throat or I'd be condescending. But now, are you also sweeping in the people who just believe in woo? So it's not necessarily religious per se.
I say throw them all in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I just want to be clear before we get into this discussion. What are we just talking about religion, or are we talking about religion and woo? I just want to be clear.
And woo?
He's talking about pseudoscience.
Wu-Tang? Is the tang off?
The atheist community, for those who don't know, use the word woo as a denigrating, patronizing description for pseudoscience.
For nonsense, yes,
right,
for nonsense.
For things that they don't
Oh,
believe.
man.
To be fair, do you think pseudoscience is worse than woo?
Well, all I can tell you is I'm Twittering Ghostface Killer later today. An atheist, you're about to go down. When he finds out about that shit.
He doesn't tolerate atheists.
What would be an example?
Not if they're fucking denigrating woo. After saying fucking woo is some nonsense.
Oh, Mark.
What would be an example of woo? A pseudoscience?
Telekinesis.
No, well, yeah, but that would be a general example. But in the medical field, like there was
homeopathy.
That's a good one.
Homeopathy. Right. If you think homeopathy is going to cure your kids' cancers,
something that's been demonstrably proven not to work. And
or if they think vaccines cause fucking autism or
right.
fucking whatever.
Okay, yeah, thanks for the measles.
But then you'll hear a skeptics calling chiropractic woo or massage. Oh, no, it is. Well, okay, see, that's where we're not going to be able to.
Clearly you've never needed one.
Yeah. Well, no.
For
back pain?
That's sedentary lifestyle.
A lot of different kinds of pain.
A lot of different things.
Foot pain, wrist, kinesio. What is it?
Well, that's not chiropractic
kinesiologist. Yeah, it is.
Penis pain.
Of course it is.
Chiropractic neurology. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's blended into the same thing.
It's not a thing.
Yes,
chiropractic is back
It is a
specific.
thing. There's two of them in town. chiropractic.
It's a specialized degree, and it's
now. I'm going to tell you this because I've been put back together by this motherfucker so many times, and I'm not a fucking I'm not getting snake oiled, bro. I'm not getting snake oiled.
No,
he does the same thing that my fucking rehab that they tried to do to me at rehab.
Then that's not chiropractic.
Yes, it is.
No, definition. No,
he's licensed as a fucking chiropractor.
Great. But if I'm a licensed homeopath, right, and I give you aspirin, I'm not giving you homeopathy.
That's not homeopathy. Chiropractic adjustments
into your back.
Yeah,
and that's fixing your wrist. No, stop. It's fixing your wrist when you adjust your back.
If there were times when it did, when I had pressure on the nerve there that was fucking affecting
my wrist,
your
and
back
he adjusted your back. That
chiropractic has been shown to fix low-grade lower back pain with consistency.
Neck too.
Other adjustments stop being chiropractic and become osteopathy. It's a different discipline.
My osteopath does not adjust my wrists and my ankles.
Maybe they choose not to, but they don't have to. Okay.
I don't think he can do it.
Yeah, it's a skill anyway. And this chiropractic neurologist that we've both had excellent results with practices the skill and calls it chiropractic or whatever you call it, chiropractic. So anyway,
all I'm interested in is you guys get happy endings at that.
No, they fired her.
Yeah.
Like, it was good while it lasted.
And why not, throw woo in there with the religious and also throw in...
They're about to get a fucking beat down, too.
I'm telling you guys are treading on thin ice with this woo shit.
Yeah.
It's a fucking shady area, man. You don't want to go there.
The RZA.
Yeah. You can get a visit.
Busta Rhymes in the Flip Mode Squad.
He wasn't in Wu-Tang.
No. Leaders of the new
I just
school,
wanted to say that.
Flip Mode.
Fushnikins!
But, so back to the thing, though. Throw in atheists in there, too. Throw in atheist parents who have some other reason not to get their children medically treated, right? You could come up with some scenario where it's not anything to do with...
Being an atheist doesn't make you smarter, so I don't know, but there's probably just as many atheists who think vaccines cause autism or whatever,
Yeah, I don't really want to...
St. Jude's Hospital. Yeah, my kids not go to goddamn St. Jude's.
A papist hospital?
Papist.
So any...
If it was Darwin's.
So there's a background on this. Let's try to keep it... Abe's listening, guys. We need it to be coherent.
Friend of the show, Abe?
Yeah. So
Blue Monkey.
I have a repeat client at my job who I do papers for all the time, and it's a nursing program, and she's getting a degree, an advanced practice nurse degree. She's probably going to...
This is a wonderful argument for why you should have let healthcare do stuff to your kids. Because they might have had a paper written by John. That's the only reason they got their fucking job. And they really are going to do a number on your kid.
Yeah. That's kind of interesting.
You know what poetic justice would be, honestly, is you're in surgery and she's the fucking surgical nurse and she doesn't know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah, luckily I don't write medical papers.
Yeah, I was going to say, hopefully she's focusing on her physical skills and giving you the bullshit.
I can't write papers on like the proper O2 level for intravenous da-da-da.
You don't put oxygen in veins, so it's a good...
Well, you can. That's what they did to Scalia. Didn't you hear about that?
That's what Obama snuck in.
Did he inject himself?
No, Obama. Yeah, he was there. Obama.
Is he a ninja?
Well, he's a Muslim ninja.
Jesus Christ! I didn't even know that.
Is that your PC version of a racist word, Brian?
What?
No,
assassin?
Ninja.
He's not a ninja. He's an African American.
Thought Abe just turned us off. Yeah. Right?
Hopefully everyone else did too.
Abe stopped listening.
That's the best I got when it comes to spontaneous humor.
And it was pretty good too, dude. And I didn't know there were Muslim ninjas, and I think we should be talking about that.
Next topic: Muslim ninjas.
Isn't that where the term assassin comes from? That's where the term assassin comes from.
This is John McLaughlin.
They're not ninjas because ninjas was specifically. Anyway, moving on.
Well,
kids. And how much their parents should
Delta
be allowed
Force.
to abuse them.
Listen.
Aren't they in Delta Force?
So I have this repeat client, right? And her son is in the Marines, and she's a middle-aged lady.
She's already about to be a shitty nurse. We got it.
She's already an RN.
Oh,
and she said
I've got a lot of nurse jokes stored up.
So I had.
What's her name and social security number?
There was an essay on ethics in nursing, which is interesting. I'm so used to that hypocrisy that I don't even think it's funny anymore that I write papers about plagiarism and ethics. But anyway, I do it all the time. So one of the case studies for her was an ethics example where there was a 14-year-old boy and he had cancer. They gave him 2 rounds of chemo, and then they said, next round, we're going to have to take your leg off, and we have to because you're going to die otherwise. And he was 14, right? And he was a sports fan and everything and had very religious parents. But what the case study said was that he refused treatment and didn't want it, okay? And then the parents went along with him. So I don't know if I should even be bringing in a wrinkle like that, but let's just go with the case study. And I had to express
and that's
opinion.
not the only time that's happened. That happens now and then. Usually they have to go in front of a judge, and the judge has to determine whether the judge thinks that they're competent to make that decision. And that's a pretty big wrinkle that you'd be inserting. But
yeah.
Go on.
But in this thing, so he waited and waited, and there was a court battle, okay? But then he went in for his next appointment, and it had spread to his lungs, so he was a goner anyway. So it was over. But the question was, what would you have ruled, as the judge or whatever? I had to express an opinion in this thing. And even though when I'm writing these papers, I'm kind of banging them out, trying to make as much money as I can. But there's something about me that I like writing and I like philosophy and ethics. And when they ask for an opinion on this, no, I'm not going to research it for 10 hours of my own time and really give them the best answer. But I do try to figure out what I think on this. And it was a very tough question. Do you let the state, in this case, intervene, or other cases like it? And what should be the criteria? So, in many states, the government can take the child away and force treatment. Even if there's no parents involved, it can be a minor who says, no, I don't want treatment. And they can say, you're getting it, and we're going to strap you down and treat you. That's happened before.
I think there's a process. I think you have to petition for guardianship, and then the guardian makes the decision.
Okay.
But usually, as part of the
about?
Petition for guardianship, it's we need to be the guardian because we need to do this.
Yeah,
thing. It's part and parcel. You don't just go I want to be guardian. Okay, now we strap you down. Not that you were saying
it would be because he was danger to himself because he wasn't in his sound mind making clear decisions about his physical well-being.
Well, they also consider them incompetent to make those decisions because they're minors.
By default, a minor is incompetent to make that decision. So what you're arguing is that the parents are not providing competent care.
I've also seen it happen to adults who wouldn't.
Right, and that's a different. It's the same basic premise, but it is a different
forced
thing.
treatment. Yeah.
The course that goes in is a different.
We saw that plenty of times in the psych ward, forced treatment,
because they'd be refusing medical care on the grounds that they're,
Martians.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So. It's so the criteria in these states where the government can grab the kid are the disease has to be life-threatening. The medical community has to be united in the treatment. They have to be clear cut. They have to be we all think this is the right.
United's a little weird because it's not like it. Because you always get some quack out there. But I get the point you're making. I'm just
the interdisciplinary team that's treating this kid has to all agree. It
has to be very clear under our current understanding of science. Yeah. This is what needs to happen.
And then there's and the parents have to be refusing the treatment. And then this is the tricky one though. The quality of life after the treatment, or the expected quality of life, has to be reasonable. It's one of these ridiculously vague words that has no, any lawyer could argue both ways. So the quality of life has to be. So here's this 14-year-old kid. He's a hockey fan, and he's going to lose a leg, and so you got to figure out does that constitute such a low quality of life that the state should not be allowed to make the decision for him.
Him losing his leg or him dying?
Am I not making it clear? So
what he's saying is the state is trying to make the decision the
state can take him.
If he's a huge into athletics and he loses his leg and he's going to lose that, is the quality of life worth making him go through that for if he's going to be miserable for the rest of his life because he can't do anything?
Does that
pretty much?
Yes, exactly. Does the low quality of life from losing a leg justify the state to force treatment on the kid?
So not the low quality of life if he dies.
No, that's
a pretty low quality.
Bare
of life.
bones.
I think we can agree on that. There is an absence of quality.
There's a joke in EMS that we always say when we're talking about stable cardiac rhythms and stuff. A flatline is the most stable rhythm of all.
Never changes.
Yeah, that's not going anywhere.
So I think it's not important what I came up with. I said that if I was the judge or whatever, I would force the kid and the parents to meet with the interdisciplinary team and a judge and have the doctors explain to the kid the procedure, the amputation, and all the new advances in prosthetics. Have them give them an opportunity to convince the kid to make the other decision with all these doctors and everyone there, all giving their different view. I would force a meeting, okay? And then I said, if after that the kid still was against it, I said the threat of government encroachment in our lives is enough to make me err on the side of personal sovereignty, people making their own choices, even though he's a minor, than to err on the side of state control and state power. So first of all, I wanted to hit Mark with this question because he generally is anarchist leaning. And
John, you ignorant slut.
Wait.
I agree with you.
The court of beef.
I agree with what you said for the paper.
But I do think
that case,
this
blah,
is
blah, blah.
too.
Is your name Mark, Eddie?
Yeah, hold on.
Is it?
No, but
okay, so he just asked me a question. I have no idea why the fuck you were talking over me or anything else.
All right, go ahead, Mark.
No, I agree with you. In that case, in those circumstances, I completely agree that I think that is what they should do. They should make sure that the kid is completely informed and knows, what the fucking consequences are, what the options, all that kind of stuff. And then he is really the one making the decision. But then again, I'm an anarchist. So even if that kid was 1 year old, I believe in personal sovereignty. I believe in that kid having his own fucking,
okay, but a 1 year old's not going to make
his own choice.
So let's say it is 1 year old and the parents are the ones saying no because they believe in, the spaghetti monster.
Then I still err on personal sovereignty because that kid. Do we really want those? Like, how many kids do we have in the fucking world that are starving, are going to die, or from some neglect or whatever? Anyways, why can't kids that have a chance are not retarded fucking parents? Why can't we help them out before we fucking help out kids who maybe are going to die anyways from some other fucking stupid shit? And maybe we don't want them fucking. Maybe we don't want them maturing into ignorant adults to begin with.
All right, you're going a little off the rails. But that
what I was trying to interject with before was just to break it into what you guys did anyway, the two separate questions. Because there's a difference between the parent's right to choose and the child's right to choose. That was the thing I wanted to clarify before.
What's your opinion on this, Eddie?
Maybe you should wait and let someone answer, and then if they don't say it, then you can fill that in.
What's your opinion on it, Eddie?
Well, I think it is two separate questions, and I don't err on the side of personal sovereignty for parents because that argument allows parents to abuse their kids. Philosophically, there's not a difference because you can sit there and say, well, if they're just going to let their kid die because of stupid reasons, well, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, if they're going to beat their kid to death for stupid reasons, it's the same fucking thing.
And the state should intervene when parents are beating their kids.
Well, I'd ask that question. Is the position that someone is occupying who says that the parents should have that full right? Are you okay with them beating the kid to death, Mark?
I don't even understand how
should the state intervene.
That someone forcing violence on someone else and touching them personally is equal to someone saying,
refusing
no, I don't want my leg cut off, and then their parents going, yeah, you can't make my kid have his leg cut off.
There's a difference. Okay.
Brian,
wait, stop, full stop.
Okay.
It's a
Brian,
bit of a reach.
What's your opinion on the case itself?
That one? That particular case?
that one, and then
I can't
the
say that you're wrong because I think at 14, I know that I didn't know a lot of shit at 14.
Yeah,
but I knew enough to make at least a mostly informed decision.
If a team of doctors came in and showed you the pamphlets and told you the kind of good life you could lead, you could be in the Olympics, racing with one of these legs.
So in that particular case, I agree with you and Mark about personal sovereignty. They made that decision as a family. Like, I'm going to fight this, but I don't want you cutting off my fucking leg. I'm going to fight it as much as I can. And if I lose my leg and I lose my life, well, then it's my fight.
Yeah,
I get that. I also get a part of what Eddie's saying because if you're, and I don't really care who I offend right now. If you're batshit crazy, fucking spun out on religion, and your reason for not treating a treatable disease on your kid is that some fucking crazy guy in the sky is going to fix it for you,
or that the book told you
some
not to.
Some imaginary man riding a cloud, or this book you read, bro, I think maybe you're not acting in the best interest of your kid,
right?
And with such a history in mental health, I mean, I've watched this go down so many ways where I'm like, dude, as bad as I feel for you that this is going on, you fucking need this or you're going to die. You have to be court ordered to mental health treatment or you're going to die. And I've also seen
I know better than you.
Right. And I've also seen it to where I'm like, I don't really think this person needs to be court ordered. I think the fucking doctor's power tripping and he's going to win.
It really is a case by case thing.
So I've seen it go both ways where we're walking out of court and I'm like, dude, I'm sorry that happened to you. Man.
Yeah,
you got fucking railroaded. Like, we'll try to get you off in 2 months. When your judicial review comes up, I'll put in a good case for you, but they weren't hearing me just now. They were only listening to the doc.
That's the vagueness of the goddamn law, man. It can never be locked down.
It's not vagueness of the law. It's how it's set up because they don't treat it as a case-by-case thing. They don't look at every single individual case and then try to legislate on that individual case. Right. They set it up beforehand, try to write some fucking law that's going to apply to every case and set parameters. Well, and that's the problem when you do stuff like that.
Yeah, but I was saying what the criteria are in the law that I was reading about anyway, and they gave criteria, but they left it loose enough that this case with the 14-year-old is kind of, a lawyer could definitely get in there and say the quality of life is low enough from an amputation that he should not be forced, even by the statute itself.
Well, I thought about that case and like how it would make me feel to lose a leg. Like all the things I want to do, I need both my fucking legs.
I know, but at the same time, when you're 14, you have so little vision about what your life could be. You might think that you're going to be in the NHL, and then a few years later, you're going to find out that you're not going to be in the NHL.
Okay, but say the kid was, let's say the kid was 4 years old,
right,
and everything else is still the same. The kid doesn't want to get the leg cut off. The parents are like, we're going to let the kid decide. What would you say the same thing, or would you have some different thing?
No, I would feel differently.
I would feel a little bit different, and I'd be like, man, he's 4, dude, like.
Because the kid's decision means nothing.
Possibly make
the kid's decision
a totally
means
informed decision at 4. He just
he might as well be 1 month.
Mark, what is your opinion on parental neglect if a parent just decided to stop feeding their 1-year-old?
Can the state take the kid?
I don't think they should. Okay. And again, that goes back to my thinking of, you know what? If you're a parent and you're such a shitty parent that you're going to do that, maybe your kid deserves to die and you don't deserve to fucking procreate.
Okay. No, and if that's your position, that's fine. And I acknowledge that my earlier analogy was imperfect. I wish I'd gotten to correct it then, but I'm correcting it now to say neglect would be a better example of just like not feeding the kid and letting him die because of lack of feeding. Not beating him, because you're right. That requires the affirmative action. Yeah. Although some would argue on that point, but that's neither here nor there. So you do think that parents should be allowed to neglect their kids till they die?
I think, as I said, that each individual, once they are born, have their own sovereignty and their own fucking, personal. So that baby should be able to wander off somewhere else and get fucking fed somewhere else.
Okay. Well, I guess
and just like the 4-year-old that we were just talking about, I think what John's answer to the 14-year-old is the same thing. You should try to inform the 4-year-old, tell him all his options, tell him everything, and make sure that he knows the score and it's not something that the parents are telling him to do. And then if he still decides that way, I just don't believe in the government stepping in and fucking playing God any more than I believe people should.
So, but let me just
and I understand that the I don't have a problem with individuals playing God for themselves. I do have a problem with when they play God for someone else.
But isn't this to a certain degree the parents playing God with the
But
kid?
That's what I'm saying. If the kid decides, like the kid didn't want the leg cut off. If the
4-year-old,
if it's a 1-year-old, then he's like, no, I don't want my leg cut off.
He doesn't talk at all.
Well, the 4-year-old's going to say, too, he doesn't want his leg cut off either. He doesn't understand probably that there's a sickness that he can't get well from yet.
Or that if you cut it off when you're young,
so the
you'll
question
grow
would
up
then
a lot stronger with that other leg and everything.
The question then becomes one of psychology. And when do kids really develop the cognizant ability to be able to make that kind of fucking heavy-ass life decision on their own?
If you gotta
then we have to ask a different question. Like, not whether it's cool to let this kid decide on his own, but when is it cool?
If you gotta draw
when does he develop that type of
right. But then again, as I said, for me, and this is just for me, I think if you're going to err, then you're going to err on the side where you let the kid fucking die, because how many goddamn kids do we have in this world anyways? And do we really want those idiot parents procreating?
So
blah, blah, blah.
Let me follow up real quick with one hypothetical for you, because you are giving an extreme opinion here, and it's fine. That's what you do, and you back it up and defend it well. But let's say it was, let's just pick a couple that you know who has a baby or had one recently. And let's say
Kim and Kanye, kill it!
And I mean it. I mean, really, really try to think about this, okay?
Okay.
So it's people you know. It's a baby you've played with. It's 1 year old or 6 months or whatever. And your friends, they were doing great, but now they're back on the meth or whatever, and they just have spiraled completely out of control. And they're neglecting the kid. You go over there to say hi or see how they're doing. These are people you care about.
I understand.
And the kid is in the room. It hasn't been fed. There's flies on it. It's going to die. This is a baby that you've played with, and it's going to die. Are you telling me that you wouldn't call the police? Let's say, hypothetically, you can't change their minds. They're not even in the house. They drove somewhere else. Well, they're going to come back later that night. Would you really not call the cops or not take it yourself, the baby?
I might take the kid myself.
So
I might start the petition for fucking guardianship or whatever, or do something like that. But no, I'm not going to fucking call the cops because CPS and all that kind of shit does not guarantee the safety of that kid. That kid could, granted he's being neglected now, but he could be put in a place that's just as equally neglectful or possibly worse,
give him food
or whatever,
and water.
But do we not intervene when we can save a kid just because some bad shit might happen to him later?
Yeah.
I just said that I would probably take him
or
start the petition for guardianship.
So what you're doing
I'm doing something.
But the job of
I'm just not involving the state.
Right.
Except for the petition for guardianship.
So
right.
We're always involving the state, man. We can't get out from under that boot.
No, I know. But I'm trying as hard as I can.
Are you saying for you to be the guardian?
Right.
Oh, yeah.
I struggle somewhat because we as a society often hold somewhat contradictory opinions. We don't let people in most states commit suicide, right? There's no conditions that you're allowed to commit suicide in most states. There's some states where you
you're correct, and I think that's ridiculous.
Okay. Under that framework, and given that framework, I struggle with things like letting a kid let himself die, which is to a certain extent a form of suicide because his leg got cut off. Because if he was unconscious and they did it to him because of implied consent, and they did it to him and he woke up, he wouldn't be allowed to put a gun in his mouth. He would be prevented.
Petition to the fucking psych unit now.
So I struggle with the inconsistency of the system.
And that's the thing that Mark was talking about, I think, with the law that encompasses everything is those words, implied consent. Because a child of a certain age, without the parent's intervention, I think that's where the court says the kid would let us save his life if you told him you're going to die.
Right.
He will let us save his life. He has implied consent because of his age and his lack of maturity.
Yeah.
And
that's why it makes it.
But that's where I think it gets sketchy. Like he's saying, like that doesn't really cover all.
Like when you bring in the 14-year-old,
because you get to a certain point where now you can really make an implied consent because there was a time at 14 when your ass might have been the man of the house.
Right.
Dad was going away.
You
were running the whole farm.
But it's difficult because if you lower the age of consent from 18 to 13,
then
you get
give
all
up my
sexual,
life. But then
you get all these sexual things that are going to happen now.
As usual, when you get real radical agnostic, shit starts to get muddy.
It's so tough.
It gets muddy up in here.
Yeah.
So I think that's the issue of there being two separate questions. Because one question is, when can a person make their own choices, and what kind of choices do we let them make? Right? That's one question.
It depends on what you're talking about, because if you're talking about individuals, all four of us are sitting here at the table, then those are one set of answers. If you're talking about the state, which you were, about suicide and stuff like that, then the state has one answer. And I can clearly, easily give you that answer. You might not like it.
Yeah.
But that's the answer from the state.
Exactly.
You mean once a decision is made?
Yeah.
No, I mean the state decides. If the state decides that you can't kill yourself, then guess what? The state decides to keep you alive or not.
But that's why
they decide what kind of health care you get.
That's why we have voting.
They decide, well, no, but it's the state, John. The state is in control.
Yes, they are. Okay. We've given them control.
As opposed to, in anarchy, when the strongest person is in control.
Right. The most violent.
Well, that's not anarchy. That's not anarchy.
Sure,
that might be chaos. But that's not the political system.
The inevitable result of anarchy.
But it's not the political system of anarchism. It's not that.
Well,
if you're talking about theories And you're talking about then how you envision things are going to work. Just like you talk about everything, capitalism, communism, anarchism, anything you want, which is all theory. We never talk about anything about the actual results.
Yeah. Fair enough.
We always say, well, I want this to happen because then maybe this is going to happen. Well, we never go, oh, well, so this should happen
we're
because...
scrutinizing anarchy harder than we do the
exactly.
other. That makes sense.
Well, no.
Yes. No, I'm sorry, said exactly what anarchism isn't. Anarchy is not chaos.
Bullshit.
Anarchy is not.
All right.
That might be libertarianism.
No.
But it's not even that.
Because libertarianism accepts some degree of government. If you accept no degree of government, no degree of authority,
I don't think you understand what anarchism is.
The strongest and most.
I'm sorry, Eddie, but you don't know what anarchism is.
No, I'm very aware of what anarchism is.
No, you're not. Because anarchism, government, it's personal government.
Mark.
You have your own authority.
Okay.
The individual has authority over themselves and no one else. Guess what? That strong man only has authority over themselves.
Mark.
Not on you.
Mark, I know you say that. However, how is our government set up? It's set up with checks and balances, which attempts...
Is our government anarchism?
No.
I don't know what you're talking about then. Why are you asking me how our
government
is set up?
Let me fucking finish.
Letting each other finish.
If our government is set up with checks and balances, and it has a lot of problems, but it attempts to address some of the issues that would naturally arise. The idea of anarchism, where everyone's a sovereign unto themselves, is simple nonsense.
This is going to get to...
Well, you said that anarchism is this.
Because that's what it is.
No, it's not.
Are you able
that might
to
be
stop
the end results. But that's not what it is.
I know what Eddie's trying to say.
I know what both of them
when
are
everybody
trying to say.
governs themselves, who protects the weak man from the strong man?
Right.
Who stops him from running
again,
wild?
Mark is saying,
again, that's not my argument.
No,
hold on.
I'm not arguing that might be the
Mark is just saying
that's not what it is.
He's saying theoretically it's possible that in the absence of a government that might not
just
happen.
like utopian socialism is possible.
Or utopian capitalism.
So anarchists are just as full of shit as utopian socialists. None of you are all right.
Exactly.
None of it works. Because people get involved and it's all fucked.
Now, this is another interesting political, legal, ethical thing. So, the San Bernardino massacre, right? These two Muslim Americans who are dead, who did the deed, and they're dead now. They got the phone of the guy. It's an iPhone.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah. And now the Justice Department, or is it the FBI, is demanding.
Well, the Justice Department is the legal wing of the enforcement branch. So the
either
FBI
way,
is
the
one that
government's
wants to do it,
demanding
but the
that.
Justice Department's the one that's like filing the
That what Apple unlocked the phone?
So they're demanding that Apple make a decryption tool. Because there's that's what it is.
No.
There's no backdoor built into this phone,
right?
And that's the whole thing. The government is not able to decrypt our phones, if they try. So government's saying in this one case, give us a decryption tool for this particular phone, so we can get in it. And Tim Cook, the CEO and everyone, the Apple is saying no. We've been fighting this battle for a long time, actually, and the Justice Department seems like they're really using this case, because it's got feeling behind it, and they're putting it out there, getting a lot of publicity to say, Apple's supporting terrorists by not letting us break into this phone. And Donald Trump, by the way, has said we should all boycott Apple because they're against freedom.
Which he tweeted from an iPhone, right?
Yeah, they love terror. And so
a little bit of a clarification from a technical standpoint. What they're asking for is for Apple to create a new version of the operating system that Apple makes, the OS, right?
Yeah.
They call it OS Egg or whatever it's called for the iPhone right now. And so Apple has the ability to push an update to the operating system via just over the air. They can say, here's an update. Like if there was a security breach, they could fix that in a new 4.6.9, and this one fixes that hole, right?
It's providing a tool to access the phone's information.
Correct, but it's even more than a simple hacking tool. That's why I was trying to speak up, is because it's actually kind of worse than just we want you to find a hacking tool would be something like a way to break the lock, like something you can stick in the lock to turn the key, right? In the absence of a key, they want Apple to replace the lock. They want Apple to get rid of the lock completely, and to give them the ability to get rid of the lock completely whenever they want, because it's actually more powerful than that. Because with just a decryption tool, there are ways often around that. You can use a longer pin or something, and then it might take longer or whatever. If they actually just do a whole new version of the operating system, push it over the air, and completely get rid of the encryption, no matter how strong. Like I read an article about you should use 6-digit passwords instead of 4-digit passwords because it'll take them that much longer to try to break it. Well, if they can just get rid of it completely, it's no longer a time issue. It's no longer an issue of the tools you're using to break in. It's an issue of you don't need tools to break in. The door just opens.
Now, in a lot of ways,
that might be what they want to do for future stuff, any future phones, and anyone that's got a rocking a phone now. But that's not what's going to help them at all with the phone in San Bernardino.
It is.
How? That phone's fucking locked and closed and not even being used. Except so
they push an over-the-air update of the new operating system. That's what they.
I don't care about these technical. Listen, in a lot of ways, this is the same issue as torture, right? Because it's the whole thing of this person did the ultimate sin. Are we allowed to violate our values in order to bring that person to justice? Terrorists, the worst bad guys in the world.
Well, what values are we
privacy
violating? We're violating the values of privacy that we've already said the government has the right to monitor our activities and monitor our conversations, monitor our emails.
We never said it.
Yes, we have.
No, they just did it.
Well, we didn't do anything about it, so we said it. Right. We're allowing them to do it. So how is the iPhone any fucking different?
Well, anyway, I don't know, but I do like connecting it to the torture issue because that's another thing Trump is for. He's been talking about torture all week. We should be torturing people. And this is an important political issue to debate. So, Brian, what do you do when you've got a suspected terrorist and someone like Brian Varble, a high tier 1 operator or whatever they call them, tells you, I'm 98% sure this guy sliced some kids' heads off in the next village, and he's a jihadi. But we can't really make a case against him, but we can hold him for a while because of the Patriot Act or something without charges. So, and we're in a dark room. Are you down with us? We're going to torture the fuck out of this guy. Are you going to do that? And I don't know. There's that personal situation, and then there's your political opinion on what the law should be. Should they be allowed to do that?
I'm not going to torture anybody personally because it's not my thing.
Yeah,
I can't imagine doing it.
Right. But legally, what do you say, man?
Legally,
and anyone who says it's an easy decision, I don't think you've thought about it hard enough.
I think I have no stomach for torture at all. I just really don't. It's fucking horrible. It's like a thing of nightmares for me.
So is it?
I don't think about it much, but I don't think I can ever come out and condone torture. But do I accept the fucking reality of it? Like, is it a reality? Because torture,
are you going to lose sleep over it that it's happening somewhere?
Torture's been going on as a way of getting confession since people were trying to get people to confess to something.
I know, but this is what's supposed to set our world apart.
No, I get that. I'm not going to condone it. But is it going to happen no matter what the fuck I say? Because in those heightened circumstances, when men of war are fighting against each other in that foggy gray area of fucking kill or be killed, shit's going to happen, man.
Sure, it's going to. But should those soldiers be prosecuted in court-martial? What's the law?
See,
are you asking what the law is or what it
should be?
Okay. No, now, see, and I also think, like, a part of me is going to talk about the Few Good Men speech when he says, it kind of, to paraphrase, it kind of pisses me off that you tell me to go out here and you fight this war, and then you tell me how to fucking fight it.
Right.
You tell me how to kill and dismember my enemy. When what the fuck does it matter if I kill and dismember him with bullets and knives on the field of combat, or if I kill him and dismember him in this fucking room? What does it matter?
Yeah, with a car battery.
Yeah, what does it really matter if I waterboard him or if I blow him the fuck up with drones and JDAMs and fucking machine guns? Dead's fucking dead. And I mean, yeah, it sucks, but so hard to say. Maybe we shouldn't fight wars.
Yeah.
Maybe we should just fucking get along and not kill each other and not fight over land and fucking stupid myths and superstition
but even then,
and money.
We would have some enemies that wanted what we had or this or that. So even if we were good,
I thought about what Beef was saying about anarchy too. I just wanted to get back to this. I think it was working to a certain degree. I mean, that's what tribal living was. They aligned, and that's pretty much how the Nez Perce did things. They were only responsible for themselves. And if
but
you
they
were
gave up authority to their chief.
Well, the chief had the ability to speak. They had so many chiefs.
Right.
So I think that's what most people don't know about Native American culture. It wasn't just one chief fucking ruled everybody. Like almost each family group had a chief. You look at all these Lakota chiefs sitting together, and there's hundreds of them. Yeah. So there were a lot of chiefs. And when
like
at those like town hall meetings,
the origin of the term Soviet,
when all those people would get together and talk.
Yeah.
If one chief, say, we're all having a discussion and I stand up and I say something and Beef agrees with me, he'll pull his blanket up over his shoulders and everybody will see that. They'll be like, okay, he agrees with Brian. He's going to not even talk. He's going to be like, yep, I'm in with him. So when something comes down, we all know where we stand and we can get together on things that way. And that is kind of anarchy working. Everybody has their own sovereign control and we agree as a group based on what's best for the group, and then you kind of know who the asshole is.
I know, but I mean, you could be right that this was a very good system and people were happy.
There's just too many people for it to work now,
and we're also just not sure of how it panned out. I mean, a lot of times
a guy would
we know how it panned out.
Before we got here, it was working great for them.
Well, what do you mean? Just because they were still alive, there might have been a strong man that murdered his rival.
Well, there was a bunch of white guys that came and they murdered them
before the white guys.
The Nez Perce were. Now I'm going to use this specific example. Okay. They were flourishing when Whitey showed up, bro. So it was working out great.
Right. And
for the Nez Perce, they were fucking happy, but they were healthy. They were fucking majestic, man. White people were fucking jealous of how healthy and happy and majestic the Nez Perce were, and then they forced our way of life on them, and now they're fucking gone.
But A, other tribes weren't always like that, and B, wasn't
they were doing pretty well. I mean,
they
were living within the land. Yeah. They had their established system. Everybody was taken care of.
Fair enough. Yeah. So, but to correct me if I'm wrong on this too, though, because I read that in a lot of those native tribes, the women would be in charge of the longhouse where all the goods were kept, and it was a communal system. Mm-hmm. And if you needed some shit like a skin or a pot to cook in or whatever, or bow and arrow, you would go to the longhouse, and the women would distribute things in a generally accepted fair way.
Those people who had long houses, but that wasn't everybody's tradition. Like the fucking Sioux didn't have a long house; they carried teepees. They were the nomadic.
It must have been a certain group of tribes that I was reading about, but it was
probably John, you racist.
Probably the Pacific Northwest.
All Indians had long houses.
To me, that's a socialism. That's a system of socialism.
Well, they
Hogan's teepees.
Yeah, but they could. Yeah, it is. They were a little bit socialist
distributing
too, because they did
from a central.
But it wasn't like not all the tribes were like that.
No, okay,
because the Sioux, generosity and charity was one of their core values. One of the things they valued as a people.
Yeah,
but it wasn't like there wasn't a.
Like they wouldn't tolerate one guy owning 90% of the stuff. Like that just didn't happen.
Well, it didn't happen because everybody did what they were supposed to fucking do. There was no real way to monopolize things like that because you couldn't go out and steal all these fucking horses by yourself.
Yeah, what are you going to do?
You had to have your homies with you to do all this. So
it was government by council.
Yeah. You had to cooperate. So it wasn't socialism in the fact that for all of them that a council took care of it. You just did it for each other out of the goodness of your, like the good hunters would be like those widows back there. They don't have anybody to hunt for their food. So you're going to cut some meat for them first and then we'll take ours out of the rest. Like it was more like that.
I'm just saying you could look back at that system and you could say there's shades of anarchy there or even that it
shades
isn't
of socialism too.
Right. That was my point. You could view shades of other systems too working. Yeah. And to call it one system.
Anarchism doesn't mean that you can't work together.
Right.
It just means that you're not ruling or have authority over another person.
And that's why I wanted to go back and touch that and say maybe the anarchists aren't as full of shit as I said they were 5 minutes ago. Because the more I thought about it, I'm like, well, no, that was kind of working where they did have their own sovereign authority, but that doesn't. Just because you only have authority over yourself doesn't mean we can't come to a common ground and work together.
Right. Exactly.
So I wanted to just retract that statement.
Yeah, but we're coming from a European
cultural
history.
As I already agreed, in theory, it's okay. In actual reality, strong guy or somebody's going to come along and do what they want.
But that doesn't mean we can't get together and say, let's fuck up
and
old Joe Blow over there.
And it doesn't mean that it's not something that you might want to strive for or qualities that you might want to work towards, in reality, and however you can.
I think I let you borrow this book, but Noam Chomsky, his political system is anarcho-syndicalism, and so there's a book where he described that. And the syndicalism part, it's anarchic in the part of there's no state that can force you to do anything. The syndicalist part is that workers own the means of production, like in a socialist state, but no state. So the workers own the means of production, and if you have a factory and there's 25 of you producing stuff in there, you pretty much split the profits 25 ways.
Right.
That's his system that he ascribes to. But he knows that's a radical system, so he's willing to participate in this, statist democracy that we have. But he doesn't like it. But he still participates. He said he's going to vote for Hillary if she's the nominee, just because the Republican field is so terrifying to him. And I don't like.
Has he offered an opinion between? Hillary and Bernie?
Oh, come on!
I just want to know.
I'll tell you an interesting bit of trivia. Noam Chomsky has only made 2 political contributions ever, because those are all recorded, and one of them was for the Bernie Sanders campaign in 1990, I think, for House of Representatives, and another one was for Ralph Nader or something one time. So he's actually the only he gave like $500 to Bernie Sanders a long time ago, before any of us, or at least I, had ever heard of him. So he definitely is a Bernie guy.
I've known of him since forever.
Yeah.
But to get back to the torture, the one factor that I think is crucial is that it's been shown that the information that you get from torture is not reliable.
Good point.
So the reason that we're doing, if you're torturing the person to kill them, then whatever. That's your choice. That's your. But if you're doing it to gather information, and then you're going to use this information to, as this is real stuff, and then base, no, that's even if you're for torture, I don't see how you can be like, no, we should do that. You shouldn't do that, because it doesn't work.
I'll never condone torture.
Yeah.
I won't.
No, I'm not saying you do, but
I've always felt that the reasons given for torture that some people want to give, that why it should be allowed, are perfect grounds as an affirmative defense. Because they always say, what about the ticking bomb? It's like, well, you should be arrested.
Right.
And then you can defend yourself saying, look, I stopped this bomb and I had no other way of doing it except this. I couldn't think of another way. But if there was no bomb, or if you don't find the right answer.
The scenario where there's a bomb and it's going to go off in an hour, and you have the suspect, and he's clamming
So you
up.
break a few fingers, and he tells you where the bomb is.
And Eddie makes a good point. So then
Bruce Willis saves the day.
You go, yeah, I broke the law. I broke his fingers. Now I'll have a trial now, and I'll explain to you why. And there's a 99% chance I'll get off.
Right. So, I don't think it should be legal, because then when you're wrong, you get off.
Oh, that's
well, I thought there was a bomb, so
but he wasn't even
fine.
involved. And now all his fingers are gone. And
it's like self-defense.
Career is over.
It's like self-defense. Right. I can't just shoot somebody, but if I shoot somebody and get arrested, I can affirmatively defend myself by saying, look, he was trying to kill me, and this is why. And if I can show that was true, I will get off. That doesn't mean shooting people's great. That means I didn't know what else to do.
And so, we all agree on certain things as torture, and what I've heard is the most effective one for actually gleaning any kind of useful information is sleep deprivation. Just not letting dudes sleep, and then they can't remember what they're supposed to tell you and not supposed to fucking tell you.
Psychosis,
so they give you things. Because you will get psychotic
in 48 hours.
But then again, still
hours,
out of that hogwash of psychosis, you're going to be able to pluck maybe you better be like a massive code talker or puzzle worker to be able to put together what fucking nonsense you're going to get and get any kind of information. So it's
well, and then also, so back to the actual subject that we're talking about. So the torture, and that's a defense if you actually have a ticking bomb that you've discovered and disarm. Well, but the government basically wants to torture everybody to discover this
waterboard them
ticking bomb that is somewhere.
There might be
we know it's somewhere. So we're going to torture So we want info into your iPhone. And access, because blah, blah,
I'm
blah.
wrong that they're only asking for a tool that will unlock this one phone. The tool that they're asking for will give them access to every iPhone.
It's one of those things where they say we only want a tool that will work on this iPhone. The problem is what they want is, and what they've expressly asked for, is a new version of the operating system, which is universal to all phones.
Well, then they're full of
and
shit.
That's what Apple said, is that this stuff that they want isn't just going to give them access to the one phone; it's going to give them access across the board.
They did say it would only work on this one, but that's bullshit. But they did say,
well, no, Apple said it would work.
Right, Apple said,
that's what I'm saying. Apple said it would
state said we want one that will only work on this case, but
and then Apple said, well, unfortunately, it won't just work on the app phone, work for every phone.
For my money, America, stand behind Tim Cook and Apple, and
John McAfee came out in John McAfee.
Virus.
Killed his neighbor. Yeah, that guy.
Well, I mean, he's crazy, but he's come out and said that he will unencrypt this one phone and give them the info that they need, so Apple doesn't have to do any other shit.
And here's the other secret. Here's the other dirty little secret that that doesn't come out in the media as much as I wish it did. Do you know why they can't get in? Because there's this thing called iCloud backup. If you turn off the phone, turn it back on, it kind of backs itself up, and that's on the phone. But it doesn't do it automatically if you've recently changed the password to the account as opposed to the phone, because the phone is like, you type in 1111 versus the actual account, password 1, right? If they hadn't changed the password and the FBI asked the sheriffs to change the password, if they hadn't changed the password, all they would have had to do is essentially reset the phone, and it would have synced with iCloud. And Apple was like, if it was on our servers, we'd have just given it to you. But when you changed the password, you screwed that up from happening. Right. So now the only way to get that data is to get in with this passcode, which you can't get. And
there's they
have a warrant. Stepped on their own dick.
Yep.
And they have a court order now against Apple. So
under the All Writs Act, which
this is going to get nasty.
I do kind of want to describe that because most people don't really know what that means. Like they'll read an article that says, according to the this 300 or 200 year old law that lets people.
It is 200 and something years old.
Yeah, 200 plus years old.
Yeah.
The law is not actually. It's not about communications, or it's not about locks. All that law says it would be like saying, boy, this guy got off because of a 250-year-old amendment to the Constitution. It's the All Writs Act just says that the courts have the right to do anything that they need to do. They can write so that it's under every subpoena, every warrant comes essentially from the All Writs Act. It says they have the ability to make a writ to say you have to come before us and stand before us. So you need to give us this thing. There were warrants in the Constitution, but this is the law that said courts can tell you to do stuff.
Interesting.
So, when I read these articles, they're always like, "Oh my god!"
It's kind of funny. It's kind of funny that I analogize this with torture, and that Donald Trump has been loudly promoting both things this week, not just one or the other. He's been loudly promoting boycotting Apple on one hand because they're supporting terror, and making torture legal. He's like, if I'm president, he keeps making these promises. We'll be torturing 6 ways to Sunday. Let me tell you, we'll be doing some torture. If I'm the president, and everyone cheers and screams. I'm like, okay, for all the nice things I said about Trump at the beginning of the last part, trying to be radical agnostic, can we step back and say maybe stop cheering and going to rallies for men who advocate torturing people?
But this is the problem: is he's such an egomaniac. So why do you think?
No, the people that are clapping are the problem, Mark. There's always going to be idiots out there.
Yes,
it's the people that clap for them that I am angry with.
I'm sorry, but there's always going to be idiots out there, and there's always going to be idiots that support them to clap for.
Fair enough.
So,
all right.
So my thing is, we're torturing guys to stop terror.
Yeah.
And how do you think? What is torture?
We're also dropping drones.
Could that maybe be terrifying?
We're also dropping bombs from invisible planes that are in the atmosphere. That's pretty terrifying too. That's you could call that
I'd
terror.
rather have a bomb drop on my. If I have to pick,
right.
I'd rather have a fucking bomb drop on my head than be flayed.
Yeah, but you don't want a bomb to drop on your neighbor's head 8 houses over and have a piece of wood go through your head, but you still live and your legs are gone.
No, I don't want that.
Yeah, and that's what happens to a lot of people, and from these drone strikes. But
like I said, maybe we shouldn't fight war. Maybe we should just try to chill.
Interesting. I'd like to subscribe to your newsletter, sir.
Yeah.
Every time the subject of torture comes up, though, I do like to bring up one thing, because I talk a lot of shit about certain segments of the political spectrum.
Right.
There was one Fox News anchor whose name I can never fucking remember.
Sam Shepard?
No.
He's the smart one. He said some sensible things. Is that his name? Sam Shepard?
Sam Shepard is a playwright.
Sam Smith? Shepard Smith. I got it. That's his name, Shepard Smith. You know who that is, right?
Yes,
Mark?
yes, I know.
He said some smart stuff. Like when the last flu scare came out, he went on and just talked to the camera. He's like, listen, all the media is telling you to be afraid of this. It was Ebola. And he's like, you're not going to get Ebola. He's like, just stop. And I was like, yay! I was cheering so loud. I was like, finally, because you're not. You're not going to get Ebola, you're not going to get Zika virus, and you're not going to get the bird flu or anything else. You're all going to be fine and die alone and unhappy and unfulfilled at 99 years old.
So, Eddie, this Fox News reporter, what did he say?
Name, I can't remember. I really can't.
It doesn't matter.
Well, I've been trying to Google it and I can't find it. My phone's being weird. But he kept saying he didn't, like, oh, it's not even really torture. Like, it's a little unpleasant. And then we get it's waterboarding. And we get the information. And he actually volunteered to do it. And I think I brought this up the last time this came up, like, 6 months ago or something.
What happened with that?
He lasted like 30 seconds, stopped, and now he's like, no, that's torture, and we should not be doing that.
Oh, my God.
And I have to give that's why when this subject comes up, given how much shit I talk, I try to be, like, intellectual honesty is a big deal for me, so, like, I want to be, I like to bring it up affirmatively and say, hey, by the way, there's this guy, and but it's very intellectually honest of him to go, to volunteer to do it, to prove, like, it's not that bad, and then he does, oh, no, it is that bad.
Next week on the Radical Agnostic, Brian gets waterboarded live on the air.
I think Brian's had enough torture. How's your toe doing?
I'll do it.
So
these pussy ass liberals.
What's left of it?
But so this shit is only going to work on the iPhone, right? Yeah, it's only for the iPhone.
Yeah, I got a Galaxy.
So there's like, fuck you, I don't care.
But it's like,
anyone that has an Apple phone after that deserves it.
Where's your freedom fighter now? You just give up. You're like, it won't affect me.
Get a Samsung. You're free to buy a Samsung.
Yeah, you're free to buy a different phone. Think anyone buys
it's just
an
that
iPhone?
It'll set this horrible legal precedent that
Well, and
it's already, but we've already set legal precedent.
But this is our last stand. It is important.
Like, this may seem like a too subtle distinction to you, Mark, but like in the law right now, the government can make you give them the key to your lock. But if you have a combination lock, the government is never able to make you give them the combination.
That's right.
That's weird. I never fucking knew that.
I read that too. That's a good point.
That is weird.
It seems like a subtle distinction, but it's the natural consequence of certain
So always get a combination lock is what I'm fucking hearing.
All right,
guys.
guys.
Give you the combination. You have to hire Charlize Theron and Mark Wahlberg to come break into my safe.
Thank you all for listening. That was part 2 of episode 51. We'll be back next Sunday. Hard hitting.
Sunday.
Honest. Hulkamania comes to your town, brother.
That's a good impression.
We'll be back, guys, and just, try to... I don't know.
Lighten the fuck up.
Bye.
Well, before you go,
Eddie, you sign off.
Well, no, I'm not doing the sign off. I'm just doing the plugging because
listen to
the Radical. Well, no, not for my show, although I should. Nonsense Debris, guys. By the way, just
Nonsense Debris.
But no, I was going to say, please swing by the Facebook. We're also going to be setting up a Patreon in the near future for those of you who've been listening to the show for a while. It would really help us out. We'll post some more details on the Facebook in the near future. Give us some comments. If you want to tell everybody how stupid I am, that's the place to do it. Or on the website, which is at theradicalagnostic.com. All that stuff is active. All that stuff is a place that you guys can contact us, get a hold of us. All of the everybody who's on the show has you can get a hold of us and comment on every episode. And
because there's 4 of us guys, and all our listeners, they have favorites, and they have guys they don't like as much. So it's funny to hear to get you guys involved and tell us who's wrong and why. But
and if you post something to the Facebook or to the website, we will probably read it on air. So if you want to get a plug, so
I promise.
All right, especially if you're fucking stupid.
Yeah. Or smart.
Especially if you're a chiropractor.
Those witch doctors.
This guy was emailing me shit about that while we're still talking. I'm not even going to read it.
Don't delete it.
I'm not even reading it.
With the bones and the cracking.
I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not reading it.
All right, guys. Thanks. Later.